The steady beep of machines was the first thing I noticed. It was relentless, slicing through the fog in my mind. The room smelled sterile, like bleach and cold metal. A scent that clung to my skin. My body felt like it was anchored to the bed, heavy and unresponsive. I was Harper, 32 years old, a marketing director who, until last week, had been on top of the world. Now, I was in the ICU, my immune system waging war on itself, a condition the doctors were still trying to pin down, whispering words like lupus in hushed tones. The days leading up to this were a blur. I'd been at my desk, mid-pitch, when my vision tunneled, my chest tightened, and I couldn't draw a full breath. Colleagues rushed around me, their voices fading as exhaustion swallowed me whole. I remember one thing clearly, the primal fear that I might not wake up. Now, here I was, tethered to machines, surrounded by strangers in scrubs, feeling more vulnerable than ever. I tried to piece it together. How did I get here? Why did my body betray me? The questions swirled. But no answers came. I was alone. Save for the rhythmic beep and the occasional murmur of nurses outside my door, my phone, resting on the bedside table, felt like a lifeline to the world I'd left behind. I reached for it, my arm trembling, and saw a missed call from Cameron, my boss. When I called back, his voice was tight. Urgent. Harper, you need to hear this. Before I could ask what he meant, I heard other voices in the background, familiar ones. My mother, Claire, and my sister, Reagan. They were in my office. Their words sharp and careless. She won't be coming back, Claire said, her tone matter of fact. We need to clear her things out. Reagan chimed in. It's better this way. She's too weak to handle it. My heart plummeted. They weren't just talking about my job. They were dismantling my life. Assuming I was too broken to fight back, I gripped the phone tighter, my pulse racing. The nurse glanced at me, concerned, but I waved her off. Something inside me sparked awake, a fire I hadn't felt in days. They thought I was done. They had no idea I was listening. I cleared my throat, steadying my voice despite the ache in my chest. Cameron, put me on speaker. There was a pause. Then the faint click of the phone switching modes. Claire. Reagan. I said, my voice cutting through their chatter. I'll be back at work on Monday. That's final. The silence that followed was deafening. I could almost see their faces, Claire's pinched expression, Reagan's wide-eyed shock. They stammered, trying to mask their panic with fake concern. Oh, Harper. We're just worried about you, Claire said, her voice syrupy. Reagan added, you need to focus on getting better. I saw right through it. They weren't worried. They were plotting. They wanted to take over my life while I was at my lowest. I hung up, my hands shaking. Not from weakness, but from rage. The nurse checked my vitals, frowning at my spiked heart rate. You need to stay calm, she said. I smiled, a dangerous thrill coursing through me. Calm, no. This wasn't just a fight to survive my illness anymore. This was a battle for my life, my career, my dignity, and I was ready to win. I didn't know the full extent of their betrayal yet, but I knew enough. Claire and Reagan had underestimated me, and that was their first mistake. I wasn't the silent victim they thought I was. I was Harper, and I was awake, more awake than I'd ever been. The hospital bed, the machines, the pain, they weren't my cage, they were my starting line, and I was ready to run. The hospital room felt smaller after that call, the walls pressing in as my mind raced. The beep of the monitors was no longer just background noise, it was a metronome, keeping time as I processed the betrayal. My mother and sister weren't just clearing out my office. They were erasing me, assuming I was too weak to notice. But I was noticing everything. Cameron called again later that night. his voice low, as if he were afraid someone might overhear. "Harper, you need to see this." He sent me screenshots, dozens of them. Social media posts, TikToks, even a GoFundMe page. My stomach churned as I scrolled. The GoFundMe was titled, "Help Harper's Final Journey," with a photo of me from last Christmas. Smiling. Oblivious. The description was a masterclass in manipulation. "Our beloved Harper is fighting a brave battle, but we need your help to cover her funeral expenses and medical bills." Funeral expenses. I was still alive. Still breathing. Still fighting. The posts were worse. Reagan had filmed a tearful TikTok, wearing my favorite navy blazer, her voice breaking, as she called me a warrior. Hashtags like #pray for Harper and #gone too soon littered the comments, along with donations pouring in. Strangers sent prayers. Coworkers shared the post, and friends I hadn't spoken to in years left messages of condolence. My mother's Facebook was flooded with her own posts, long, emotional captions about losing her daughter. It was a performance, and they were the stars. I felt sick. Not from the lupus flare, but from the coldness of it all. They weren't just lying, they were profiting off my pain. Cameron sent another message. "Reagan's been asking around about your $401k and life insurance." She called HR. "Pretending to be you." My hands shook as I read it. This wasn't just emotional manipulation. This was financial predation. They were circling like vultures, waiting for me to die, or at least, pretending I would. I couldn't cry. The anger was too sharp, too consuming. Instead, I started saving everything. Every screenshot, every video, every comment. I forwarded Cameron's messages to myself, creating a digital paper trail. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew it mattered. They thought I was helpless, hooked up to machines, fading away. They didn't know I was listening, watching, planning. I called Eva, my closest friend and a lawyer at a firm downtown. Her voice was steady, grounding me as I poured out the story. "Harper, this is fraud," she said. Our tone clipped. "And it's not just personal, it's criminal. We can build a case." I felt a flicker of hope. The first in days. Eva wasn't just a friend, she was a weapon. And I needed her now more than ever. We started small. Eva advised me to keep quiet, to let Claire and Reagan think they were winning. "People like this get sloppy when they're confident," she said. So I played the part weak, bedridden, unaware. I answered their calls with a frail voice, letting them ramble about taking care of me. Meanwhile, I was gathering evidence. Cameron became my eyes and ears at work, sending me updates on Reagan's movements. She was brazen, strutting around the office like she owned it, telling people I'd stepped down due to my health. The TikToks kept coming. Reagan posted another, this time holding a candle, her eyes glistening with crocodile tears. "My sister's light is fading, but her spirit lives on," she said. The comments were a mix of sympathy and donations. $5. Archer. eBay. I calculated the total over $15. Zero raised in 3 days. My blood boiled. But I stayed focused. This wasn't the time for rage. This was the time for strategy. Eva and I met virtually, her face stern on my laptop screen. "We need more than screenshots," she said. "We need proof of intent. Proof they're misusing the funds." I nodded, my mind already racing. I asked Cameron to keep an eye on Reagan's spending new clothes. Dinners out? Anything that didn't add up. He sent me a photo of her at a high-end restaurant, captioned, "Celebrating life." The irony was bitter. I wasn't the person they thought I was. I wasn't fading. I was sharpening, honing myself into something they'd never expect. Every beep of the monitor reminded me I was still here, still fighting. Claire and Reagan had started this war, but I was going to finish it. They thought they could bury me. They didn't know I was already digging their graves? Scrolling through the GoFundMe page was like reading a horror novel starring myself. The lies were meticulous, woven with just enough truth to seem plausible. Harper's medical bills are mounting. The description read, "And we're preparing for her final days." Final days. I was sitting up in bed, my laptop balanced on my knees, my heart pounding with fury. The page had raised $22. Zero now. With comments like "God bless you. Claire and Harper's in a better place soon." The audacity was staggering. I took screenshots of everything, the donation totals, the tearful updates, the photos of me they'd pulled from my social media. One post showed Reagan holding my childhood teddy bear, her face crumpled in grief. The bear was still in my apartment, which meant she'd been there, rummaging through my things. The violation stung, but I pushed it down. Emotion wouldn't help me now. Evidence would. The comments were a mix of strangers and acquaintances, all duped by the performance. A coworker had donated $200. Writing, "Harper was always so strong." Past tense. They thought I was gone. I saved every comment, every dollar raised. Eva said we'd need to prove the funds weren't being used for medical expenses. So I asked Cameron to dig deeper. He found a bank statement Reagan had left on a shared printer purchases at luxury stores. A deposit for a new car. It was all I needed to know. The coldness of their betrayal wrapped around me like ice. But instead of breaking me, it sharpened my focus. I wasn't just fighting to survive lupus anymore. I was fighting to expose this fraud, to reclaim my story, to protect anyone else who might fall victim to this kind of cruelty. If stealing my dignity wasn't enough, they'd taken my work. Cameron sent me a LinkedIn post from Reagan, showcasing my the 4th of March Keating strategy as her own. It was my baby 6 months of late nights, countless meetings, and painstaking research. I'd built a framework blending social identity theory with consumer psychology, designed to land a multi-million-dollar contract with Mitchell, our biggest client. Now, Reagan was presenting it as hers. Complete with my charts and data. The post had hundreds of likes, with comments praising her vision. Mitchell's CEO had even commented, "Looking forward to your presentation." My chest tightened. Not from illness, but from rage. This wasn't just betrayal. It was theft, corporate espionage disguised as family loyalty. My notebook, my ideas, my name erased. They thought they could take what I built and walk away. I found security footage from the office. Time-stamped the night Reagan had been seen near my desk. She'd taken my notebook. My laptop open in the background. I saved the footage, along with emails she'd sent to Mitchell, claiming credit. Every lie was another nail in her coffin. Eva and I crafted a plan to let them think they were winning. Reagan was invited to present the stolen strategy to Mitchell, unaware she'd be exposed. I played weak, answering her calls with a shaky voice, letting her believe I was still bedridden. Behind the scenes, I was gathering evidence, emails, footage, timestamps, screenshots. I called it Operation Karma. We timed it perfectly. Reagan would walk into the presentation, confident, thinking she'd stolen my life and my work. Mitchell's team would expect a polished pitch. But she didn't know the material. She couldn't. She hadn't built it. I, on the other hand, knew every detail, every nuance. I was ready to step in, not just to reclaim my work, but to dismantle her lies in front of everyone. The anticipation was intense. But I stayed calm. This was the moment the tables would turn. Let them walk into the spotlight thinking they owned it. I was ready to show them exactly who they were messing with. The morning of the presentation, I walked into Mitchell's office like a ghost returning to haunt the living. My legs were weak, my body still recovering. But my resolve was steel. Heads turned, jaws dropped. Cameron gave me a subtle nod from the back of the room, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Reagan was at the front, mid-sentence. When she saw me, her face paled, her confidence faltering for the first time. I took my seat, my heart pounding but my expression calm. "Please, begin," I said, my voice steady. The room was tense, filled with executives expecting a polished pitch. Reagan tried to recover. Then her smile tight as she clicked through the slides. My slides. She stumbled over terms like social identity theory, mispronouncing data points I'd memorized. It was almost painful to watch. But I stayed silent, letting her dig her own grave. The Mitchell CEO, a sharp woman named Diane, leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Reagan's nerves were unraveling, her answers vague and rehearsed. I could see the doubt creeping into the room, the executives exchanging glances. This wasn't the visionary they'd expected. Diane asked a simple question: "How does your framework leverage purchase motivation?" It was basic, something I could answer in my sleep. Reagan froze, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. The room waited, the silence heavy. I stood, my movements deliberate. "May I asked Diane, who nodded, curious. I walked to the front, pulling up the original files on my laptop. The framework intersects social identity theory with purchase motivation. I began explaining the logic with ease. I clicked through the metadata, showing my name on every document, every draft. Then I played the security footage, Reagan sneaking into my office, stealing my notebook. The room went silent. Reagan's face was ashen, her hands trembling. I turned to Diane. "This strategy is mine. Regan stole it, along with my identity." While I was in the hospital, I laid out the GoFundMe screenshots, the TikToks, the bank statements. The evidence was undeniable. Suddenly, 2 men in suits entered. Reagan Ellis. One said, "You're under arrest for fraud and fundraising deception." Her eyes widened, panic setting in as they cuffed her. She looked at me, pleading. But I felt nothing. The weight of betrayal collapsed in that room, and justice had arrived. I turned to Diane, who looked stunned but impressed. "I'm Harper," I said, "and I'm back." The room erupted in murmurs. But I didn't care. I'd taken back what was mine. Facing Claire and Reagan in the lawyer's office felt surreal. Years of silent suffering boiled to the surface as I laid out the evidence. The trust fund my father had set up at 18 was nearly empty. Withdrawals over 15 years had funneled millions into Reagan's accounts, money meant for my college. My future. Stolen. I revealed a letter I'd found among my father's things, a confession he never made public. He hadn't left because I was too difficult, as Claire claimed, but because she'd been caught embezzling from his company. The truth shattered their lies. Reagan's eyes widened, her facade cracking. Claire's voice faltered as she tried to deny it. But the evidence was irrefutable. This wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming my history, my identity, the years stolen from me. For the first time, they were on the defensive. The legal team presented the ultimatum: surrender all claims to the trust fund, repay every dollar, and sever contact with me permanently. Reagan signed first, tears streaming, her apology sounding genuine for the first time. Claire hesitated, anger flaring, but even she crumbled under the evidence. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice and peace. Forgiveness wasn't part of this deal. I set clear boundaries. This was my life, and I was done letting them control it. Walking away from the past was hard, but necessary. Strength wasn't about fury. It was about standing firm, protecting myself, and moving forward. The court ordered Claire and Reagan to repay every cent, relinquish all claims to the trust fund, and sign a no-contact agreement. Claire resisted, her defiance crumbling only when faced with jail time. Reagan signed immediately, her voice breaking as she said, "I'm sorry, Harper. I didn't know it would go this far." It was the first time I believed her. But it changed nothing. I didn't forgive them. Forgiveness felt like giving them power they didn't deserve. Instead, I acknowledged Reagan's apology as a step she needed to take, not one I needed to accept. Eva sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. A silent reminder I wasn't alone. The courtroom was quiet as the judge finalized the ruling. The gavel a punctuation mark on their defeat. Walking out. I felt lighter not because I'd won, but because I'd reclaimed my life. The money would be returned. The lies exposed. The boundaries set. Claire and Reagan couldn't steal what I'd earned: my resilience, my dignity, my future. This was closure, not vengeance. And it was enough. After Claire's conviction, the family home reverted to me through the trust fund. It was a place of pain, filled with memories of manipulation and loss. Selling it would have been easy, but I wanted more. With Eva and Miles, a lawyer who'd helped with the case, I transformed it into Harper House, a shelter for victims of family financial abuse. We gutted the house, replacing dark memories with bright walls and warm furniture. It would offer legal aid, counseling, and safety for those betrayed by the people closest to them. Miles worked pro bono to set up the nonprofit, while Eva connected us with donors. Turning my pain into purpose felt like the ultimate victory. Opening day was quiet but powerful. A woman named Sarah, our first resident, walked in, her story eerily similar to mine. I showed her to her room, promising she'd find her way. Harper House wasn't just a shelter, it was a beacon. Proof that pain could build something beautiful. Sharing my story on a podcast was terrifying but liberating. I spoke about the hospital, the betrayal, the fight for justice. Thousands listened, many sharing their own stories of family abuse. The conversation grew bigger than me, sparking discussions about trust and survival. My father sent a letter, admitting he wished he'd fought harder for me. I wasn't ready to forgive him, but I didn't close the door. Blood didn't guarantee loyalty, Eva. Miles and Cameron had proven that. Family was who you chose, and I was choosing wisely. The letter stayed in my drawer, a reminder of growth, not obligation. My final blog post was a thank you to Eva, Miles, Cameron, and the strangers who'd found strength in my story. Some battles aren't fought to win, I wrote. They're fought to survive. And I survived. I locked the door to Harper House, now ready for its first residents, and walked away with Eva, Miles, and my father beside me. Freedom felt like a fresh breath, a new beginning. My past didn't define me, it empowered others. For anyone watching, I know this surviving is the bravest victory of all. And this time, I wrote the ending.